I'm giving you examples of how to uncover mysteries in the New Testament by using these ancient methods. In this session, I'm going to talk more about the guilty going into the fiery hell. We read in Matthew about the guilty going into this fiery hell. This fiery hell is a Greek concept. It's a place of burning and painful judgment. However, Jesus is using this exquisite imagery and symbolism to point to a higher principle. We have the written, it's called the written law, which is the Old Testament. And then we have the oral law, which are the interpretations of the written law by the Jewish sages. Now, it starts out, you have heard that the ancients were told. You have heard is saying, you've been taught. You've been taught the interpretation. What have they heard? You shall not commit murder. That's the 10 Commandments, and that's the written law. That's in the Old Testament, the written law. You have heard, you shall not commit murder. You have also heard, whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. That's what is known as the oral law. That's the interpretation. Jesus says, but I say to you. Now, he is not going to contradict the scripture. He's going to give you a higher interpretation, a higher meaning. Now, he's going to do it in a very interesting way that we're going to have to unravel. Number one, everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court. Well, that was apparently something from the oral law, and the court would have been in the synagogue. Then it goes, whoever says to his brother, you good for nothing, shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is referring to the Sanhedrin, which was a gathering of the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem. Whoever says, you fool, shall be guilty enough to go into the fiery hell. What is happening, it's an ascending order of judgment. If you're angry with your brother, that's the crime, the penalty is the court. You good for nothing, the penalty is the Supreme Court. You fool, the penalty is the fiery hell. What's important are the penalties. The penalties are in an ascending order. Now, the fiery hell is a Greek concept. It is not in the Bible. It is being used as imagery to make a point, to give the message. So what we have here is we have hell in the New Testament is the word Gehenna, which is the Hinnom Valley. And the Hinnom Valley was a place of burning refuse outside the city. It was accessed through the dung gate. Now, Jesus continues, and he says, therefore, if you are presenting your offering at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, so you have made a sin, you've sinned against someone else, leave your offering before the altar, and you have to remember your brother first, before you leave your offering. So God's not going to forgive you until you seek forgiveness from the person that you have harmed. So what happens is it says first you have to be reconciled to your brother, then you can come and present your offering and seek forgiveness from God. When you sin, you're going to bring harm in some way. So you have to reconcile with the person to whom you brought the harm before you can ask God for forgiveness. That's the higher principle that is higher than what the Jewish sages were teaching about just going before the court. So Jesus is teaching us a higher principle that we can bring into our lives today. So recognize when you do something wrong that brings harm upon yourself, your relationship with God, or another person, and you be reconciled first, either with the person you've harmed or with God, before you can ask for forgiveness. That's the higher principle. I trust this series on uncovering mysteries in the New Testament has convinced you there is a much greater depth to the gospel of Christ than is currently being taught. If you want to know more, we have a self-study course called Hebraic Methods of Bible Study on Udemy that you can take at your own pace when you are ready.